Guys, welcome back to the Iris Pod. I'm delighted today to be joined by Greg Copley of ACF Technologies, who are an expert in delivering solutions for CX. We're going to dig into that. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
We've got a slightly reconfigured setup because we're moving office. Hopefully you're not blending too much into our rustic brick wall. But welcome to Iris HQ and the Iris Pod. I feel a little bit underprepared because you guys run a very professional podcast. So hopefully we reach the levels of your work. Greg, let's start here. ACF Technologies, what is it that you do?
Sure. So thanks firstly for having me on. I'm excited to be here. We specialize in the delivery of technologies that help enterprises improve or enhance their customer experience. So what that shapes up to be in reality is things like enterprise appointment management solutions, queuing solutions, virtual queuing solutions, video engagement solutions. And we basically utilize a variety of technologies, deliver that to the enterprise, and then work with them, I guess, in a consultative manner as well, where we help them over years shape that general, or go on that journey of shaping the improvement of customer experience. So it starts with technology, but normally, evolves with consultancy and ideas and experience and things like that. So, yeah.
A wise former boss of mine once said, before you can create a truly exceptional customer experience, you first have to create an amazing employee experience. Otherwise, your employees don't buy into delivering whatever it is that you're trying to talk to these important customers about. How much is that employee experience part of this important philosophy?
Yeah, it's actually, I think, a huge area within CX is actually just looking at the general satisfaction and happiness of your staff. It's something that came out of our own podcast actually quite a number of times as a real common, reoccurring trend of topic, basically. People were saying it's great to focus on your external customers, but don't forget your internal ones too.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of that come up in conversation over the years, and I would say it has a direct correlation. There is no question about it. If you can design technologies and solutions and processes so that they are easy for staff to understand, that is ultimately empowering the staff member. And if you can empower staff, then you're going to end up with a better external customer experience. So I would say the two are interlinked and pretty intrinsic.
How much, when you're talking about technology in this space, is it seen as essential yet? Or is this still something where, when I think about CX and what it means to deliver a truly great customer experience, it feels like every single company out there talks about that, but a percentage that's a lot less than 100% really invest and deploy an exceptional customer experience. Yeah. Is this still seen as something that's quite optional, or businesses finding budget to invest and make this part of their core offering?
I'd say technology, that improves the customer experience, is a very broad set of technologies. Anything from appointment booking all the way through to chatbots. There's a huge variety of technologies basically on offer. From my experience in working with a lot of enterprise organizations, you've really got to avoid the trap of picking a technology because it's a hot topic and going all guns blazing on rolling it out to the business when actually you haven't done the groundwork to really qualify whether it's needed or to look at what inherent benefits it's actually going to bring to the business. So chatbots is actually such a good example. So many organizations over the years have rolled out chatbots, yet I'm pretty hard done by to find someone who's actually been impressed by a chatbot over the years. In some respects, like it normally lends itself to like a difficult or a cumbersome experience where you don't get the outcome you really want. And I know that's not all the case, and not all chatbot technologies are bad at all. But quite commonly, when you look at the technology, it has lots of amazing potential benefits. When it's actually implemented, normally it leads to a bit of frustration on the customer side. So avoiding traps like that, I'd say, is a big thing when it comes to CX technology. But then on the counter to that, when you do implement the right technology in the right way, the benefits can be exponential. You can shape not only a much simpler and improved customer experience for the end customer, you can make the life of the staff a lot easier, like we talked about, which can have such knock-on effects to like longevity of your customers, the lifetime of your customer in terms of their journey with you. So I think if done correctly, can be amazing. If not done in the right way or with the right steps, I think can be potentially brand damaging.
Yeah, I think sometimes as a customer, you want a quick, you don't have to speak to someone, I don't want to wait in a queue, I just want a quick answer.
Yeah.
It feels like the potential's there for that self-serve. But I can think of examples where it's infuriating. You ask the question and it comes back with something that, isn't actually anything. I can think of I won't name them. They probably get quite a lot of heat online already, but a particular parcel delivery company that, you'll say, my parcel hasn't been delivered. And they'll come back on the chatbot and it will say, I understand that you can't find your parcel. It's like, no. It hasn't been delivered.
Yeah.
Don't twist this into a me problem. This is a you problem. Then you can't find a phone number to speak to someone. It feels like it can actually, by implementing some of these things, like you say, actually be quite damaging to brand, rather than the thing that it's supposed to be there to do, which is enhance customer experience.
Couldn't agree more. I think I once spoke to someone actually again on our podcast, and the way they put it was, I think, really encapsulates everything, which is you should be implementing technology to bring your customers closer, not move them further away. And quite commonly, technology gets put in a way that actually you're pushing the customer further away.
Yeah.
When you implement such technologies like we maybe talked about there, all you're doing is creating a slightly bigger rift between you and your customer and ultimately what they want to achieve. And I think if you can always have that self-check in place, so that, are we implementing a technology or a process here that's actually for our benefit and therefore pushing the customer slightly further away and maybe delaying that customer coming to us, or are we putting that in place in a way that actually it's going to bring our customer closer, we're going to create a better interaction. And so I to think of it like that, really, in that respect. So.
Yeah, and that's definitely interesting. In terms of, if I think back, not even that far ago, like 5, certainly 10 years ago, if I wanted to go and see not my bank manager, but someone at the bank, I could set up an appointment. I could probably get one, for half an hour within a few days. That is it's a non-starter now. It's going to be an interaction over a phone call, or at best, if it's some sort of, if it's a mortgage, I might have a Zoom call or something like that.
Yeah.
What's your understanding of how the market's shifting and the different forms of communication that are really offered up now to customers to interact with the companies that they're purchasing or have services with?
Yeah, I think it makes for a really interesting conversation, because the world we are in right now is, you can't really dispute, it's a hybrid world. We utilize a combination of online resources, over the telephone, over video for customer service, as well as obviously in person. And I'd say the future is going to continue to be that. And it's for every organization, each brand, it's about working out what is the best formula for your brand and your service. So in the pandemic over the last couple of years, we saw this huge rise in the importance of virtual customer service models. So whether that's online and digital self-serve, or it's actually virtual customer service in the form of contact centers, video solutions, things of that nature. And I think personally that is going to continue. So I think that's going to continue to gradually grow. It may not be as prevalent as what we saw in the pandemic, but I still think that virtual customer service in its importance is going to continue to grow. Even though we have a rising growth of online and self-serve, I still feel those virtual touch points are going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah. It feels like we spoke about this on a number of podcasts, and it was definitely a topic at the recent Call and Contact Center Expo in London. It feels like when the touch point is with an actual human, even more so if it was face-to-face, but let's say virtual, it feels like those are very important premium conversations that need that higher level of quality in whatever form you're talking about to make that, a really productive moment between two or more people.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think the future, again, of customer service is premium comes from human to human interaction. I would say that is going to be inevitably the play that will be a part of every customer service model is that where you have more transactional based interactions and services, quite commonly that will be self-serve, utilizing simple online resources or simple sort of transactional models. It could be even in the form of chatbots and getting quick responses. I would say then that leaves the door open in terms of the opportunity to create a more premium customer experience with your human to human interactions. And I think we thrive off it. I think there is no better way to create a better long-term brand experience than with human to human contact. I think it's one of the things that a lot of organizations struggled with most actually in the pandemic in particular, because we really saw this this sort of wedge or this gap was driven between customers and businesses because they weren't properly set up to actually handle the volume and connect with customers in a virtual world. But I think that's going to continue to be extremely important, but also very much just an essential part of your technology roadmap and things of that nature. So focusing on that, I'd say.
It feels like companies, as much as people give them a bad rep sometimes, but companies like Amazon come to mind, right?
Yep.
If something goes wrong with a product, you got everything that you could possibly need in your, I know they've got infinite resources, but you go into your account, that was the order, that product's broken, didn't turn up. It feels like the automation then seamlessly then connects with I assume it's a real human. They might have some crazy AI and I think I'm speaking to a human and I'm not. And it just feels like they're empowered to make a decision as well, even what would probably be considered as a customer service agent that's probably on a minimal wage, but they feel empowered to actually make a choice. And ultimately that's what you want, rather than I'll have to go and speak to someone and they put you on hold and then are they helping other companies strive for better, or are they just putting other companies out of business?
No, I think companies like Amazon, where you do see an exceptional level of customer experience in all forms, not just the technology they use, like you say, the way they empower staff, the processes they design. When you are in the back end of your Amazon Prime account, like you say, you can find everything you need. You need, transaction history, order history, invoices. It's all there. Everything is there, and it's. I think it pushes the market. I think it drives the market forward. I think in some level, we all inherently measure ourselves up to brands like that. Whether it's Apple, for years has always been like the gold standard for like in-store experience or brand experience. Amazon from like a process perspective, and there's countless examples I'd say of brands like that. And I would say they make us all hold ourselves to a standard that we should strive for when it comes to the way we design processes, customer experience. Another great example I heard about the other day is, Pret, obviously the coffee provider. I believe they empower all of their staff to give away 1 or 2 free coffees, I think, per day. For the sense of just trying to make people's days better. And I think that is such a simple yet a great example of how you can empower your staff in such quite a straightforward way, but actually the long-term effects that will have on the brand. You will turn people from absolute Starbucks fans into Pret fans overnight because of something like that. So simple yet extremely powerful from a brand experience perspective. So
as a recipient of that exact example,
they
obviously start to recognize who's coming in to this store frequently, and they're like, oh, it's on us today. And I thought, oh, that is amazing. What a kind person. And then a couple of months later, it happened again. And I mentioned this exact example, and they said, oh, no, they did loads of research. They were going to do a loyalty thing, and they decided just to empower their staff. I think it's a fantastic example. They've actually introduced a loyalty thing now, and I wonder if that's a backward step for them. It's like a perks card thing where it says, oh, now you've got a perk. And I wonder if that's complementary to what else they're doing, or whether they've tried to systemize it.
I think we've spoken quite a lot over the years with our customers about loyalty and how do you create loyalty. And I think it actually is to me, it's such an interesting topic of conversation, because loyalty over the years has had a shift, in my opinion. In the past, it was more about effectively buying loyalty. I think you could quite easily buy people's loyalty from a brand perspective, and people would just move to where they feel like they're getting the best deal. But I feel like that's changed. I don't honestly think that's the same. I think loyalty now is more of a two-way street where, yes, uh, a brand would like loyalty from the customer, but actually now the customer also expects loyalty from the brand.
Yes.
And that can come in multiple ways. It could be, we expect you to hold yourselves to a certain level when it comes to your corporate social responsibility, or it could be more direct in terms of the benefits I receive from your brand. There's so many different ways in which it can be a two-way street. But I think it was in 2021, there was a loyalty report. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to try and dig it out. But the loyalty report specifically talked about this shift in customer loyalty and how we are much more aware as consumers, and therefore our expectations of a brand are greater than they've ever been, especially when it comes to, if we give you our loyalty of business, we expect the same in return. And this two-way loyalty play effectively is something I think a lot of marketeers are starting to think about it. And that's maybe part of the explanation as to why Pret are doing more than maybe they were doing before. I don't know, but
yeah, I just thought it was I think it's really impressive, particularly when bigger businesses get loyalty right, because ultimately it's about being authentic.
Yep.
And maybe a lot of companies overcomplicate that. In fact, small businesses overcomplicate, and it's probably a good example where technology really is sometimes overused. Like, I just refuse loyalty cards at coffee shops or anywhere now. I don't want that thing.
Yeah.
Make it frictionless, or I'll just pay what I call the lazy tax, and I don't want that free coffee in every 10 because I can't be bothered to carry around this stamp or this new app or whatever.
Yeah. There is that as well, and I think I guess in some respects you could maybe link that back to what we were mentioning earlier, which is putting technology in the way of the customer experience rather than helping the customer experience. And the idea might be great, but actually if you're giving someone else something else to do in their day, we don't need anything else to do in our day. We're busy enough as it is. We've got enough emails, we've got enough apps, we've got enough notifications going off all day. What we don't want to have to think about is another thing to do. So there's always striking that balance in terms of what you're asking someone to do. Is it worth the reward you're giving them? And I think over the years, we've seen a lot of customer loyalty programs fail because of that, because they expect too much from you and actually you don't get enough in return from the business.
Yeah.
And it could be, I spend £1,000 and I get 5 points. It's like, well, 5 points doesn't get me anything. So, or it could be, in the sense of, to redeem this voucher, you have to print this, go here, add this code, and actually before you know it, you're like, no, this is way too much for me. So, yeah, I think you've got to strike the balance in terms of what you ask the customer to do.
I think wise, very wise. In terms of this journey that you build with technology for your clients, and at some point, okay, I've got to speak to someone now.
Yeah.
And we know from our research that actually an industry that was taking a bit of a downturn, in fact, in terms of total number of call center agents globally, the pandemic, swear word on this podcast, then started to see an uptick. This was a vital service again, and actually now we see an industry that's going to grow to something like 18 million desks globally by 2025. How important are those touch points, technology, automation, etc., out of the way? We're now speaking to a human being. How important is that moment to get that right?
I think it's crucial. I do honestly think it's crucial because with the rising opportunity to create self-serve environments and self-serve technologies, to me it just puts a greater emphasis when a customer does speak to an agent, a representative of your business, your brand, because that's exactly how the customer sees them. Getting it right is absolutely crucial. And when you break down any human to human, especially in the form of like a contact center interaction, let's start with what often is driving an interaction, especially with a call center. Quite commonly, frustratingly, it's coming from a negative state of mind in the customer side. You don't often ring the call center to have a chat or because you're having a great day. Normally the customer is calling because there's a problem, there's an issue, they want to redeem something, they maybe want to ask a question at best. So I think if you actually look at it in its truest sense, a customer interaction is quite commonly starting from a negative point of mind. So therefore, getting it right is even more important. So when you break down the whole virtual customer service journey for your customers, I think starting there is probably the honest but the right way to look at it. You know, these customers are already frustrated or annoyed on some level. So how are we going to turn that into a really positive experience? And I once spoke to a guy from, I won't say the brand name, but it's one of the guests we've had on our podcast, but a very premium retail brand here in London. And he talked about using every opportunity as a brand experience enhancer or something that's going to basically downgrade your brand experience. So every time you have an interaction with the customer, it's either going to make your brand experience, so your brand perception in the mind of the customer slightly better or slightly worse. And their job as, you know, call center agents. Oh, that's all right. This is a podcast and this is what happens.
We got technology that can remove that clattering noise in the background, so it's fine.
It's all good. So yeah, I think when you look at technologies, technology experiences basically where you've got a call center agent speaking to a member of staff, they've got to think in their mind, how am I going to send this customer away with a slightly better brand image than when they first came onto this call? That's how I've sort of always seen it. And when I speak to, you know, the real experts, that's how they tend to position it. So getting those interactions right is crucial. And obviously, you know, we've been speaking recently about what you guys do with your technology, and it really does play a role. You know, creating a more positive audio experience, for example, is a crucial part of that. Customer journey. If you're calling a call center, you're annoyed, you're angry. We've all been there, right? You're not happy with your product, hasn't shown up, or something like that. And you call a call center and all you can hear is background noise and barely hear the person you're speaking to, or, you know, you're struggling to understand one another. You know, we know that does one thing and it just builds frustration. So, you know, which is ultimately going to end in a downward spiral of your brand image. So I think it's crucial, like, when you break it down.
Well, I'm glad you brought that aspect up. Obviously, you know, if we're trying to make that moment have less friction, you know, if you can hear 100 people in the background, that's annoying. But also for the agent, they are dealing with you know, how many dials are they doing a day? Like many, you know, tens, if not into the very high, towards 100 dials a day, and speaking to customers in uncontrollable locations, and it's frustrating for both sides, and it's not conducive to problem solving or premium experience. So I think it's a really solid point, and I guess without getting too technical, kind of leads to that net promoter score mentality, right? And really only people that are 9s and 10s on that scale are promoters. The rest of them are either detracting, saying something poor about your brand, or not really saying anything positive at all or bad.
Yep. I have spoken to quite a few brands actually that, sorry to use the swear word again, of the pandemic, but in the pandemic, they did make serious progress in the net promoter score, and it was because they got that call center experience right. They really had a great model set up going into what was actually a large increase in traffic in that channel. And by getting it right, they came out the other end with a much higher net promoter score than they thought they were going to ever achieve.
Interesting.
And it was because they had actually directed a lot of their customers to their call center, knowing that it was a well-oiled machine. It wasn't an immature, set it up in a panic sort of situation where we saw with some brands. It was already there, well established. They had very good processes. They had empowered staff, and actually they came out the other end in a better place than they went in. So there's a couple of brands examples I've seen that, and, you know, hats off to them, because they took lemons and turned it into lemonade, basically, from how I see it, really.
I think it was a moment, and now is still a moment, where technology is a great leveler. Those companies that are willing to change their culture, their working model, and onboard technologies to help, and they can do it at relatively low cost. Is actually the key point here. And I think it's more of a mindset thing than a technical hurdle. If you really, if you really examine the challenge, it's a people problem and a mindset to overcome that hybrid working is not such an issue. For instance. Even now, definitely the theme, I think, moving forward.
Over last couple of years, we've rolled out a lot of video-based solutions,
Right.
and where we enable one-to-one customer to obviously contact center, let's say, or even connecting customers with members of staff in the branch when they can quite happily walk into the branch, but they're choosing to use video. And we've learned a lot through rolling out video technology. But most importantly, we've realized that actually it's another channel that really I think needs to be there. When you look at the way that customers demand more choice than ever, they want to be able to pick not only the channel that best suits them, but they want the ability to change that channel should they want to. So a common scenario we find happening is where a customer, let's say, books an appointment for a face-to-face interaction, but it's raining, it's cold, they're now their kids off sick off school, for example, so they're stuck at home, yet they still want to speak to that person that they come to speak to, but they can't get to that physical location. Well, technology nowadays is perfectly equipped to allow them to change from a face-to-face to a video call or to a telephone call. No problem. We can easily do that from a tech perspective, yet most brands don't have that ability. And actually, if you look at that scenario, that is a very common occurrence with customer experience, yet very few organizations are set up to do it. But the ones that are, I think, are going to be leagues ahead when it comes to, the long-term play of how they see this whole omni-channel and how they see that fluidity of customers moving from one channel to another. So I guess that links into it in some respects. But
yeah, customers are more demanding. Why do we know that? We asked call center agents in a study which we published in a white paper, and you can download that white paper. Over 450 people already have, so why not also download it, and you can find out other interesting things about the demands of the call center space, the agents, but also the customer angle. You can get that at www.iris.audio/white paper. And I've learned that because I always get that wrong, and I have to look for confirmation from the team, and they're giving me a thumbs up. So that's the correct URL. You can get that for free. It's free. Go for it. I wanted to flip gears.
Yep.
Our companies are similar in one way, well, many ways actually, in our philosophies, but in another way, because we both have a podcast.
Yep.
The CX Insider podcast is a very successful podcast. You have far more subscribers and viewers than we do, and some excellent guests. I want to start here. Like, why do you guys have a podcast? Because it kind of feels, we get asked it a lot, what's the point of that? But actually, fantastic storytelling, ways to get different angles.
Yep.
Not salesy.
Yep.
What's your philosophy on why that's an important part of your strategy?
I'm really passionate, in all honesty, about podcasting in general, our podcast, everyone's podcast, really, that really goes on that journey of setting one up, because I do believe there is a lot of power in social discourse. There's a lot of power in sharing ideas, the collaboration of ideas, people sharing their best initiatives and what they've learned in their experience over their careers. I think there's so much that can be gained from it. So we set up our podcast about 3 years ago because we decided, instead of being like, every other sort of sales team out there, for example, or marketing team, whereby, you're dialing the phones and you're hassling people on LinkedIn, we would rather focus our energies and efforts on building a community of like-minded individuals that basically value customer experience as highly as we do. So we started off very badly. Our first few episodes I really don't recommend listening to because they're terrible. The ones we recorded that never published, they're even worse. So thankfully you'll never see them. But we started off really by saying, okay, well, what do people want to hear about? And to me, it comes down to two things. It's value and it's entertainment. People want to learn, but they also want to be entertained. And so over the years, our podcast has just evolved to trying to find the people in our industries that people really want to hear from. So the head of customer experience, the head of digital, the head of brand experiences at some of the largest organizations in the world. And the reason why people want to hear from them is because we really value their insights and their experiences. And quite commonly, their careers are something of great importance, and they've done amazing things and got incredible results. Hence, they are where they are now. And so we really make an effort to bring out their best ideas to the table so that others can learn from it. And in that sharing of ideas, and people are so open, and we're so appreciative of it, but so people are so open to sharing their ideas and all their best thoughts and programs that they've tried and things like that. The benefit to people listening and watching, I think, is just amazing. So I absolutely love it. I enjoy it. It's one of the most enjoyable things about our job, for sure, is that we get to connect with such cool people.
Yeah, I mean, I completely mirror it. I think the value exchange, as I call it, where we're giving it up for free. There's no point in.
Yeah.
I think it's a real shift in mindset of forward-thinking companies to really offer up their secrets, their methodologies, their philosophies. Ultimately, there's a big market out there which we can all benefit from. So by sharing our ideas and the way that we overcame problems. And having like-minded people, as you say, discuss that and share it is good for everyone, and is actually secretly quite a good sales tool as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we actually once had quite a few times, to be honest. We've had quite a few people on the podcast, and yeah, they turned around and just said, "We love what you're doing because I like your way of approaching me." He or she, for example, would say, we know you want to speak to us about your product or your service, and I will do that because you've taken this approach and not the other, which is just, hassling them at 6 o'clock in the evening or whatever on the phone and stuff like that. So we value the exchange of value, and therefore we put our foot forward with the hope that they will return their time and just to look at our solutions and things of that nature. But first and foremost, the output, I guess, that benefits to everyone is the quality of the conversation and the ideas that come to light because of it, really. So yeah, we love it. So
some particular guests that you've had that you'd call out for people to go and check into?
Yeah, a couple that jump to mind. So in the last 6 months, we've gone full video. So if you go to YouTube and type CX Insider podcast, you'll see about 10 or 15 episodes now of just pure video episodes, which has been amazing. A couple that jump out are a guy called Harry from Monzo Bank. So Monzo Bank being a digital bank, he has been a pioneer in their utilization of language. So if you think about Monzo, it's a digital experience inherently because they don't have physical locations, and they have call centers, but it's not their primary method of communication. Their primary method of communication is through the app and through the phone. So language, every single word, is absolutely fundamental. And he came on our podcast and talked about how he goes back to ancient language. He goes back to Old English and talks about how language has evolved and how he's trying to break down, for example, these nuances of banking, which are tend to be very complex language, hard for people to understand. And he's got to break down that stigma basically of banking and try and put it into a modern way of talking to a customer. So instead of it always being formal, it's now emojis, it's things of that nature. And
really?
That's the modern day communication. Yeah. So why would you not try and communicate with people how they want to be spoken to? So yeah, that's one episode that jumps out. And let me think of another one. I've got so many. But one actually that definitely jumps out is the guys at Santander Technology. So we work with Santander as one of our clients, but we also work centrally with the Santander Technology and Global Operations.
Yeah.
And their job is to build and deploy the latest technologies across the world to basically enhance customer experience. And what they've done over the last few years with this, what we call the Internet of Things, so technology that involves, connected devices. What they've done at Santander and what they're continuing to do is extremely impressive. The two guys that came and spoke on our podcast, worth checking that one out for sure, because what they've done in their world and continue to do is definitely revolutionary. So.
It's a new one on my playlist. I listen to the News Agents religiously. I don't know if you've picked that one up yet, which is Emily Matus and
I haven't actually.
John Sopel and Jamie Goodall, which is an excellent, 35 minutes a day, snapshot of the whatever the trending news item is. But I need one for that's that's the evening commute. So I need one for the morning commute. So CX Insider is my new subscribed one. So I'll catch up.
Thanks,
Greg. It's been great to have you on the podcast. I'm looking forward to reciprocating in the new year on the CX Insider. If people want to come and check out ACF Technologies and what you guys do, people want to level up their CX, where can they find you personally and the company?
Well, you're going to find obviously ACF Technologies and all of the socials in particular, but we have a real big presence on LinkedIn. So if you look for ACF Technologies, you'll certainly find us there. Also, if you want to really try and plug into this community that we're building around CX experts and ideas around our podcast, if you just search for CX Insider podcast on LinkedIn, for example, we've got a page with 1,500 I think followers or something like that. So, and it's growing every day, and there's ideas being shared on there, and we run polls and questionnaires and things of that nature. So yeah, look for us on LinkedIn mainly. Is a big platform for us, whether it's ACF or CX Insider. And yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and obviously any of our teams. So
excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks everyone for joining the Iris Pod in our cozy corner this time. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.